Welcome to America Reads fun and easy learning activities where college students work together to create these activities. The subjects that we cover include reading, writing, and math. In today's activity, we will be doing some math and learning how to solve linear functions to find coordinates on a graph or see if a function is linear or not. And I, Viviana Rodriguez, will be walking you through this fun activity. So in today's lesson, we're going to be defining linear functions, and in order to do that, we basically use this equation for everything. The equation is y equals mx plus b, and our m represents our slope, and the b represents our y-intercept. I'll go over some examples of what exactly that means in a bit. But basically, when we're trying to figure out if a graph or something is linear, we're always going to use this equation here, and any numbers that we're given, we plug into the equation to figure it out. So now I'm going to actually show an example here so that we get a clear idea of what exactly it is. So this equation states that y equals 2 over 1x plus 6. So now, since this is our b and that represents our y-intercept, in our equation we have a 6. What we are going to do with that 6 is we also have to pay a lot of attention to the signs that we have before our numbers. So since this is a positive 6, what we're going to do is we're actually going to find positive 6 in our graph, and let's say that we draw a dot here. We keep track of that, right? And since our y-intercept is a positive 6, we mark our positive 6. And that means that our line that we graph in a bit, it's gonna cross the y-axis at 6. So that's basically what that number is telling us. It's our y-intercept. So where our line crosses the y-axis. Now that we know what our y-intercept is, now we can go and look at our slope, right? Which in this case is our m, because the equation basically determines what values are represented here. So 2 over 1 represents our slope. So now in order to graph that, what we do is starting at the 6 that we marked here, which is our y-intercept, we're going to do basically like a rise over run sort of thing. So what we do is we go down 2, 1, 2, and then we go over 1, right? Because go down 2 over 1. So starting at 6, 1, 2, 1, and then you can mark a dot here. And then starting at that dot, you go 1, 2, 1, and then you mark another dot here. And then from this dot, you go 1, 2, 1. And then it gives us this little coordinate here at -3. And then you can actually just keep going until you get a line completed. So from the -3 that we marked, you go 1, 2, 1. And that gives us enough coordinates for us to be able to draw a line. Now we connect all of the dots that we made in order to create our line. So starting at 6, basically connect all of the lines that we made, and then it gives us this line here. Now you can actually go back and you can write down the coordinates that cross. So for example, here the coordinate that the line crosses would be -4 and -2. Now for our next example, here I have this function which states that y equals 2x minus 6. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put that to the side and then bring up my equation so that we know exactly what we're looking at. And we can see that our y-intercept is a -6. So it looks a little similar to the last problem, but now our numbers are negative. So now the only thing that changes with that is that we're going to be working with the negative side of either the y or the x-axis, right? But in this case, our function has -6, which is our y-intercept. So we go down to our -6 here, and we mark that there. And then our slope is a 2, which means that we will go over 2, we will go up 2 and then over 1. So 1, 2, and then over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2 and over 1. And then you go back, and to find your line, you connect all of the dots that you made, starting at -6. Make sure that you line it all up so that we get a really straight line. And then you can draw your line there. And then again, you can go back and you can look at the coordinates that the line crosses. And just to name a few, we have 0, -6, and then we have 1, -4, and then we have 4 and 2. So those are 3 coordinates that our line crosses and that this function gives us. Now for our next example, we have the function that states that y equals 9/3x plus 5. So now looking at our y-intercept here, it's a +5, which means that we're going to be working on the positive side of the axis, right? So since it's a +5, we go up to +5 here, and again we can go ahead and mark that so that we don't lose our place there, because that's where we go off of this number. We go off our y-intercept to build the rest of our line. So now you go down 9 and then to the side 3. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Brings us down here, and then we go to the side 3. 1, 2, 3. And since that is a pretty big line, we're actually just going to go ahead and cross that right here to our 5. And then this gives us our big line. It's a really big gap, but again, 2 easy coordinates that you can find on this line are 0 and 5, and -4 and -3. Now for our last example, we have a function here that states that y equals x plus 6. So now this might be a little confusing just because we do not have technically a slope, but in cases like this, when you do not have a number there next to the x, which if I show you the equation that we use that we go off of by, we don't have a slope here, right? We only have our x and our y-intercept, which is, you know, the b in this case would be a 6. But we don't have an m. So in cases like this, when your function doesn't have an m or a slope, we're just gonna go ahead and assume that it's a 1. So since that basically is just an invisible 1, what we do is, again, start at our y-intercept, which is a 6, so we can go ahead and mark our 6. And what we do is, since that's a 1, we just go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. It's just 1, 1, so the rise over 1 would be 1. So you're just going 1 all the way until you get a line that you like. Doesn't really matter how long it is, because you could go on forever, especially when you have a big graph. So if you're just going 1 by 1, then you get a line there, and that gives you some very easy coordinates. And not only that, but it gives you a lot of coordinates, so you can go down and write whichever ones you prefer.
Thank you for joining me on this fun activity. Be sure to like and subscribe to America Reads YouTube channel for more lessons just like this one. See you in our next video.